She only wanted to comfort a stranger. In return, she gained an empire, and the love of a father she never knew. That park bench had been there for decades, wood worn down by the weather, cracked by the sun, a silent witness to so many stories the city had forgotten. But that afternoon, something different happened. An elderly man was sitting there, completely motionless, his gray hair messed up by the wind, his eyes red and swollen from crying. In his wrinkled, trembling hands, he held a pristine white handkerchief, as if it were the last pure thing he had left in this world. Behind him rose the most luxurious building in the city, mirrored glass reflecting the sky, massive balconies with hanging gardens, a marble lobby, a monument to money. But the old man didn't look back. He stared into nothingness, lost somewhere inside himself, where pain lives. That was when she appeared. A simple young woman, her blue service uniform still damp from scrubbing floors, worn-out shoes, hair pulled back in a tight bun. She was walking down the sidewalk when she saw the old man. She stopped, hesitated. Most people would have walked right past, pretending not to see. But not her. She approached slowly, like someone approaching a wounded animal, and sat down next to him. She didn't say a word. She just reached out and, with a gentleness that seemed to belong to another century, wiped the tears rolling down the old man's face. He closed his eyes, and in that instant, it was as if he received an invisible hug, as if someone for the first time in a long time said, "You are not alone." But how did this story begin? Who was that young woman? And why did that old man cry every day on that bench? To understand this, we need to go back a few months. Her name was Maya. 28 years old, an orphan since she was 15. She raised her younger brother alone, working as a housekeeper. Every morning before the sun came up, she left the rough neighborhood where she lived and crossed the entire city. 2 buses and a train ride, an hour and 40 minutes each way, all to get to that luxury high-rise, where she cleaned the apartments of people who never looked her in the eye. Maya was different. She had an almost naive honesty, the kind that makes people think, she's going to get eaten alive in this world. Once, she found a $100 bill under a sofa. She could have kept it. No one would have known. But she handed it to the apartment owner, who didn't even say thank you. She just took the cash and closed the door. Every morning, Maya passed by the park and saw the old man. He was always there, sitting on that same bench, crying. At first, she just watched from afar with pity. Later, she started waving. He never responded. He just cried, as if trapped inside a memory that wouldn't let him leave. Maya didn't know it, but that old man was the biggest developer in the region, owner of construction firms, malls, vast estates. A man who had everything except the only thing that mattered, but that she would only find out later. Inside the building, another man controlled everyone's lives, the property manager. 45 years old, a suit way too expensive for his salary, a red tie like a war flag, slicked back hair, imported cologne, fake smile. He was the longest-standing resident of the condo board and loved reminding everyone of it. He loved power. He loved to humiliate, and Maya was his favorite target. Every week he invented a complaint, that she took too long in the apartments, that she left the smell of cleaning products in the hallway, that she looked at residents' belongings with envy. He called her trash behind her back. To her face, he treated her with that polite disdain that cuts deeper than a scream. One morning, Maya was mopping the lobby of the 10th floor when the manager, Mr. Henderson, walked by. She greeted him as she always did. He didn't even look, but he stopped, turned back, and said loudly so all the residents waiting for the elevator could hear, "You're taking a long time on this floor. Are you using the time to take a look at other people's things?" Maya felt her face burn. "No, sir. I'm just doing my job." He smiled. That smile of someone who knows they have an audience. "I hope so. Because if anything goes missing, we know who to look for, don't we?" People chuckled. Nervous, awkward laughter, but laughter nonetheless. Maya lowered her head and kept cleaning, her hands shaking with humiliation. But the worst was yet to come. A few days later, Mr. Henderson realized he had lost a watch. It wasn't just any watch. It was a Rolex, a gift from his ex-wife, which he used to impress the younger women he brought back to his apartment. He turned his house upside down. Nothing. Searched his car. Nothing. And then, like a lightning bolt, the certainty came. It was the maid. He had no proof. He had no logic. But he had anger. And anger, for men like him, is enough. That afternoon, Maya was finishing her shift. She put the cleaning supplies in the utility closet, put on her old jacket, and headed for the exit. She was tired. She just wanted to go home, hug her brother, and forget about that day. But when she reached the marble lobby, she found the manager, arms crossed, flanked by 2 security guards. "Stop right there." Maya stopped, confused. "Yes, sir?" "You're going to have to open your bag." "Why?" "Because I said so." Her heart started racing. She looked around. Residents were walking by, staring, whispering. The doorman looked away, embarrassed. "I didn't take anything, sir." "Then you won't have a problem opening the bag, will you?" Maya opened it, hands shaking. Inside, just a stale roll she had saved from breakfast, an empty wallet, and a photo of her brother. The manager dug through everything, threw the bread on the floor, turned the wallet upside down. Nothing. "Raise your arms." "What?" "Raise your arms." She raised them. One of the security guards patted her down, right in front of everyone. Maya felt tears burning her eyes, but she refused to cry. Not there. Not in front of him. Nothing was found. Mr. Henderson shrugged, as if nothing had happened. "You can go." Maya left, devastated, humiliated, broken. She crossed the park with fast steps, almost running, trying to escape the stares, the muffled laughter, the shame that now followed her like a shadow. And that was when she saw the old man sitting on the bench again, crying. This time she didn't hesitate. She sat next to him and cried too. 2 strangers, 2 different pains, but somehow connected. The old man looked at her, and for the first time in months, he spoke. "Why are you crying, my child?" Maya wiped her face with the back of her hand. Because sometimes the world is just too cruel." He nodded, as if he understood perfectly. "Yes, it is." And then he did something unexpected. He took the white handkerchief from his pocket and offered it to her. "Here. A clean handkerchief always helps." Maya took it, and in that simple gesture something changed, something neither of them could predict. Because that old man wasn't just an old man, and that young woman wasn't just a housekeeper. They were father and daughter, and soon the whole world would know. But the humiliation was just the beginning. The next day, Maya arrived at the building as usual, 6 in the morning, uniform washed, hair tied back, determined to forget what had happened. She needed that job. Her brother depended on her. Rent was due in a week. There was no time for wounded pride. But when she tried to pass the front desk, the security guard blocked her. "You can't go in." Maya felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. "What do you mean? I work here." "Not anymore. Manager's orders. You're fired." She stood there frozen, trying to process those words. Fired, no notice, no explanation, no right to defend herself. But I didn't do anything wrong." The guard looked away, uncomfortable. "Look, I just work here. Take your stuff and go." Maya went up to the service area, grabbed her cleaning supplies, her personal items stored in a rusty locker. When she came down, some residents watched her from the windows. No one said anything. No one defended her. She was invisible to those people, and now she wasn't even that anymore. The worst part was remembering the health insurance. The plan the cleaning company offered was the only reason her brother could get his asthma medication. No job, no insurance. And without insurance, she couldn't even finish the thought. Maya went home destroyed. She told everything to her brother, a 16-year-old boy, too thin, eyes too big for his suffering face. He tried to comfort her. "We'll figure it out, sis." "We always do." But they both knew this time would be different. Maya spent the next few days knocking on doors, looking for work. No one was hiring. The economic crisis had closed doors all over the city. And when she finally got an interview, the same question always came up. "Why did you leave your last job?" She didn't know how to lie. And the truth? No one wanted to hear it. Meanwhile, the old man from the park was still there every day. Maya went back to walking past him, but now without the blue uniform. Now she was just another unemployed woman crossing the city without a destination. He recognized her. Waved. She waved back. And in those silent waves, there was a connection neither could explain. One day the old man saw the property manager walking through the park, laughing loudly on the phone, telling someone how he had gotten rid of that nosy maid. The old man got up from the bench, swaying a little, and walked up to him. "Did you fire that young woman?" Mr. Henderson stopped, looking at the old man with that contempt he reserved for people he considered irrelevant. "And who are you?" "Someone who saw what you did. That girl didn't steal anything." The manager gave a dry laugh. "Look here, Pops. Mind your own business. Go back to your little bench and cry quietly, okay?" He turned his back and walked away. The old man stood there, shaking with rage, with helplessness, with shame for not being able to do anything. He was rich, powerful, owner of half this city, but in that moment he felt small, useless, a pathetic old man no one took seriously. Then came the night that changed everything. Maya was at home, making dinner with the little left in the cupboard. Rice. Yesterday's beans, nothing else. Her brother was lying on the couch watching TV with the volume low to save electricity. Suddenly, he started coughing, softly at first, then harder. And then, his breathing started to fail. Maya dropped everything and ran to him. "Where's your inhaler?" The boy pointed to the coffee table. Maya grabbed the inhaler, but when she pressed it, nothing came out. It was empty. Calm down, breathe slowly." But he couldn't. His chest rose and fell desperately, as if he were drowning on dry land. His lips started turning blue. Maya grabbed her phone, called 911. 20 minutes wait for the ambulance. 20 minutes that felt like an eternity. When they finally got to the county hospital, the ER was packed. People on the floor, people waiting for hours. The doctor attended to the boy in a rush, gave him emergency medication and said what Maya already knew. He needs continuous treatment. Without the right maintenance meds, the next attack could be fatal. Maya asked the price at the pharmacy. Without insurance, it was $340 a month. She didn't even have 40. She left the hospital holding her brother's hand, who was still breathing with difficulty. And for the first time in her life, she thought about giving up. On everything. But then she looked at that boy, who trusted her, who believed in her, and knew she couldn't. That was when she remembered the loan shark. Everyone in the neighborhood knew Vinny. A short man, thick mustache, gold teeth. He lent money to those in need. High interest. Violent collection. But he was fast, and Maya was desperate. She went to his house that same night. "I need $1,000. Vinny smiled, that smile that didn't reach his eyes. $1,000? All right, 15% interest a month. Pay in 3 months or the debt doubles." Maya did the math mentally. It was absurd. But what else could she do? "I accept." She signed a paper, took the cash, and when she left she carried not just the dirty bills, but a weight in her chest she knew would crush her. In the following days, Maya bought the medicine, paid the back rent, bought food. Her brother got better. But the debt began to grow like an invisible monster. First $1,400, then $1,700, then $2,000, and Maya had no way to pay. Vinny started showing up at her door, banging, screaming, threatening. Neighbors peeked through the cracks in their blinds, but no one interfered. No one ever interferes. And it was in that moment at rock bottom, when Maya thought there was no way out, that she went back to that park. She sat on the bench next to the old man, and this time she was the one who cried uncontrollably. It's hard to believe someone can be so cruel, isn't it? A man who destroys an innocent woman's life just because he can, who humiliates her, fires her, and never looks back to see the destruction he caused. If you also feel outraged by this injustice, leave a like right now to show you're on Maya's side. Vinny wasn't a man who liked to wait. 3 weeks after the loan, he banged on Maya's door at 6 in the morning. Kicked the door, screamed her name like he was calling a dog. "Maya, I know you're in there. Open this door now." She opened it, her brother hiding behind her, still in pajamas, eyes wide with fear. "I'm going to pay, Vinny. I just need a little more time." He laughed, a dry, humorless laugh. "More time? You already owe $2,200. Next week it's $2,600. You know what? If you don't pay by Friday, I'm taking this apartment, and you two are sleeping on the street." Maya felt the world spin. "You can't do that." "Yes, I can. You signed the paper. Read the fine print next time." He left, leaving a cloud of threat in the air. Maya closed the door and slid down against it to the floor, hugging her knees. Her brother knelt beside her. "We'll make it, sis." But she wasn't sure anymore. In the following days, Maya took any job that appeared. Cleaning yards, ironing clothes, washing dishes in restaurants. She got a gig as a housekeeper in another borough on the other side of the city. 3 buses to get there, 3 back. The pay was lower than the old job, $800 a month. less than half of what the debt demanded. At night, when she got home exhausted, she still tried to do something extra. She started baking cookies and brownies to sell. She put everything in clear plastic containers and went to the park, the same one where the old man spent his days. She sat in a corner, embarrassed, trying to catch the attention of passers-by. Most walked right past. Some looked with pity, others with disdain. Few bought anything. The old man watched her from afar. He recognized her immediately. The girl in the blue uniform, the one who comforted him, the one who cried with him. Now she was there selling cookies, eyes tired, face marked by exhaustion. He got up from the bench and walked over to her. "How much?" Maya looked up, surprised. $2 each. "Give me all of them." "What?" "All the sweets. How many do you have?" Maya counted quickly. 43. He pulled a $100 bill from his pocket and handed it to her. "Keep the change." "No, sir, I can't accept this." But he was already tucking the containers under his arm, walking back to the bench. "Yes, you can. You need it more than I do." And then, for the first time in months, he smiled. A small smile, almost shy but real. Maya stood there holding the $100 bill with shaking hands, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. That gesture repeated itself. Every night the old man bought all the cookies, always with big bills, always refusing the change. Maya tried to protest, but he was stubborn. He said he liked sweets, said he had diabetes and couldn't eat them, but liked giving them to neighbors. She knew it was a lie, but she accepted it because she had no choice. Slowly, the debt began to shrink. It didn't disappear, but it shrank. And Maya began to breathe again. But the property manager was watching everything. He saw it from the window of his 12th floor apartment. He saw the maid he had humiliated selling cookies in the park, saw the retired old man buying everything, and it irritated him profoundly. How dared that woman be there, in his territory, surviving, resisting, and worse, the old man was helping her. Mr. Henderson started investigating, asked the neighbors, found out the old man lived in a small apartment 2 blocks away. Widower, no kids, spent all day in the park, didn't bother anyone. But that didn't matter. Henderson wanted revenge. That was when he had an idea. The next morning he called the police. "Hello, I'd like to report a disturbance. There's a homeless man occupying the bench in the park in front of our building. He's scaring the residents. He needs to be removed." 2 hours later, a patrol car appeared. The old man was sitting on the bench as always. The officers approached. "ID, please." He handed over his identification with trembling hands. "Where do you live, sir?" "Over there." He pointed to the building 2 blocks away. "Then why are you here?" "Because I like it. It's allowed to sit on a park bench." "We received a complaint that you are causing a disturbance." "Disturbance? I'm just sitting here." That was when Henderson appeared, walking out of the building with that victorious smile. "Thank you for coming, officers. This man spends all day here scaring the children, bothering the residents. We've asked him to leave several times, but he refuses." The old man looked at him incredulous. "I never bothered anyone." "You're bothering us now. This bench is condo property. You are trespassing." "This is a public park." "No, it isn't. This plaza was built by our developers and donated to the city with the condition that it remains a privately owned public space under our management rules. So leave, or the officers will have to remove you by force." The officers looked at each other, uncomfortable. One of them whispered, "Sir, it's best if you go. We don't want any trouble." The old man stood up, defeated. He took his white handkerchief, put it in his pocket, and started walking away. That was when Maya arrived. She was running down the sidewalk carrying grocery bags. She saw the patrol car, saw the officers, saw the old man leaving, head down, shoulders hunched, and saw Henderson smiling. Something inside her exploded. She dropped the bags on the ground and ran to the old man, placing herself in front of him like a human shield. "No, he's not going anywhere." Henderson rolled his eyes. "Look who showed up, the thief. I am not a thief, and he isn't doing anything wrong. He is trespassing on private property. This is a public square. Everyone has a right to be here." "Not everyone. Only people with class." Maya took a step forward, eyes flashing with anger. "You have a whole building, but you don't have a heart. He only has his loneliness, and you want to take that away from him. What kind of person are you?" The whole park went silent. Passers-by stopped. Mothers holding their children's hands, street vendors, residents in the windows, everyone looking, everyone listening. Henderson opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. Because for the first time in his life, someone had told the truth about him in front of everyone, and he had no answer. Maya turned to the officers. "Please, he's doing nothing wrong. He just wants to sit on a bench and live in peace. That is not a crime." One of the officers looked at the other, then at Henderson, then at the old man. "Look, Mr. Manager, there is no crime here. The gentleman is sitting in a public space. We can't remove him for that." Henderson turned red with rage. "You will regret this." He spun around and went back into the building, stomping his feet like a spoiled child. The officers left, and Maya stood there, next to the old man, both shaking, both exhausted. The old man looked at her with eyes full of tears. "Why did you do that?" Maya smiled, tired. "Because someone had to." And in that moment, without knowing it, she had planted the seed of something that would change their lives forever. The next morning, Maya was washing dishes when someone knocked on the door. 3 firm, formal knocks. She dried her hands on a dish towel and opened it. A man in a gray suit, leather briefcase in hand, glasses. He didn't look like he was from the neighborhood. "Maya Silva?" "Yes." He extended a white envelope sealed with a red stamp. "Official summons. You need to appear at this address tomorrow at 10 a.m. Maya took the envelope with shaking hands. "A summons? Did I do something wrong?" "I cannot say, just be there." He turned and left. Maya opened the envelope right there, in the doorway. Inside, letterhead paper, gold lettering at the top. The address was a law firm downtown. Penthouse, 18th floor. She didn't sleep that night. The next day she left home at 7. Took the 2 buses and the train. Changed clothes in a mall bathroom, putting on the only blouse she had without stains and the most presentable pants she could find. She arrived at the building at 9:45. The lobby was white marble, crystal chandeliers. A security guard in a black suit received her, checked her name on a list, and cleared her to go up. Maya got in the elevator and pressed the button for the 18th floor. Her legs were shaking. When the doors opened, she was facing a double door of solid wood. She knocked. A voice from the other side said, "Come in." Maya pushed the door and entered. The room was huge. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the entire city. Leather furniture. A conference table so big it looked like a runway. And sitting at the head of that table, wearing an impeccable suit, was the old man. Maya stopped, frozen. He didn't look like a frail old man anymore. He looked like a tycoon. Hair combed, beard trimmed, posture upright. Beside him, a younger man, also in a suit, held an open file. The old man stood up. "Maya, sit down, please." She sat confused, heart beating so fast it felt like it wanted to burst out of her chest. I don't understand. You are..." He smiled. That same shy smile from when he bought the cookies. "My name is Anthony Sterling. I own Sterling Construction. I built the building where you worked, and 17 other high-rises in this city." Maya blinked, trying to process. But you were crying in the park." "I was, every day, for 30 years. He paused, and for the first time his voice cracked. 30 years ago, my daughter died in a car accident. She was 28, the same age you are now. She was pregnant. The granddaughter I never met disappeared that night. The hospital said the baby died, but I never believed it. Never." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. "I built an empire. Buildings, companies, money. But none of it mattered, because I had lost the only thing that gave my life meaning. My family. I spent 3 decades sitting on that bench crying, waiting for something I didn't even know what it was." He walked over to her and knelt beside her chair, looking into her eyes. "Until you appeared, and wiped my tears. And for the first time in 30 years, I felt there was still goodness in the world. I started watching you, following your steps, and I discovered you were an orphan. Abandoned at a hospital. No record of parents." Maya felt tears start to burn in her eyes. "So I did something I should have done a long time ago. I investigated. I dug through archives, bribed officials, and I discovered you were abandoned at St. Mary's Hospital on October 7th, 1997. At the same hospital, on the same day, at the same hour, that my granddaughter disappeared." He signaled to the lawyer, who opened the file and pulled out a document. "We ran a DNA test, compared it with samples of my blood." He handed the paper to Maya. She looked at the numbers, the graphs, the conclusion highlighted in red at the bottom of the page. Probability of relationship, 99.997%. Maya let the paper fall to the floor. No, it can't be. Anthony held her hands. You aren't just a good woman, Maya. You are my blood. You are my granddaughter. You are the daughter I lost. And I spent 30 years looking for you without knowing it. Maya started to cry. Deep, uncontrolled sobs. 3 decades of loneliness and abandonment finally making sense. Anthony hugged her, and for the first time since she could remember, Maya felt what it was like to have a father. After a few minutes, the lawyer cleared his throat discreetly. Mr. Sterling, shall we proceed with the documentation? Anthony nodded, still holding Maya's hand. The lawyer opened another folder. Maya Silva Sterling, by right of blood and the express will of your grandfather, you are now the legal owner of this penthouse, valued at $3.2 million and 51% of the shares of Sterling Construction, including all assets attached, among them the Vista Verde residential tower. Maya looked at him, not understanding. Vista Verde? That's the building where I worked? Exactly. You are now the majority shareholder. You are the owner. The irony hit her like a lightning bolt. The humiliated fired maid, searched like a criminal, was now the owner of the building, and the man who humiliated her worked for her. Anthony squeezed her hand. I know it's a lot of information, but you don't have to decide anything right now. I'm here. I'll teach you everything. We'll make up for lost time. Maya looked at that man, that sad old man who now smiled and realized she hadn't just gained a family. She had regained hope. Maya spent the first few weeks trying to understand her new reality. Meetings with lawyers, signatures on documents, bank accounts with numbers she didn't even know how to pronounce. But there was one thing she knew exactly how to do. Justice. On her first Monday as owner, she called an emergency meeting of the condo board. All residents were required to attend, and the manager too. Mr. Henderson entered the conference room with that usual arrogance, unaware of what was about to happen. He sat at the head of the table, as he always did, but Maya was standing next to the lawyer. Good morning, everyone. My name is Maya Sterling. I am the new owner of this building. Henderson gave a nervous laugh. Is this some kind of joke? No, it isn't. Here are the documents. The lawyer handed copies to everyone present. Henderson took the paper, read it once, read it again, and went pale. This can't be right. It is absolutely right. And the first change I will make is this. You will continue working here, but not as property manager. He looked at her confused. As what then? Maya smiled, a cold, calculated smile. As the janitor. The silence in the room was deathly. Are you crazy? I won't. Yes, you will. Or you can quit right now and lose your severance package and face a lawsuit for wrongful termination of previous employees. The choice is yours. Henderson looked around, seeking support. But the residents looked away. No one defended him. No one ever really liked him. How long? 3 months, so you can learn the value of work. He clenched his fists, shaking with rage, but he knew he had no choice. He needed the money. He had bills to pay. Pride didn't pay the mortgage. Fine. The following Monday, Henderson showed up wearing a blue cleaning uniform, the same one Maya used to wear. The pants too loose. The shirt with the building logo embroidered on the chest. He was assigned to wash the glass entrance of the building, the same entrance where Maya had been searched. Residents walked by and looked, surprised. Some whispered. Others laughed discreetly. Children pointed. And Henderson scrubbed the glass with such force he seemed to want to erase his own existence. Maya watched from afar, from the penthouse window. She didn't feel pleasure, but she felt justice. In the following days, she put him to clean the hallways, to collect trash from the chutes, to scrub the garage floor. Every job he had despised was now his. One morning, a resident called him. Hey you, come clean this up. My dog pooped on the lawn. Henderson looked at her, incredulous. I am not what? Aren't you paid for this? Then do it. He grabbed the shovel and the plastic bag and did it. For the first time in his life, he understood what it was to be treated as invisible. At the end of the second month, he sought out Maya. I want to quit. She was sitting in the management office reviewing reports. You may. But I need you to know. I am sorry for what I did to you. Maya looked at him, There was no arrogance left in that face, only exhaustion and shame. You're sorry because now you know what it's like to suffer, not because you understood you were wrong. He lowered his head. Maybe, but I feel it anyway. Maya nodded. Your resignation is accepted, but I will pay your full severance. I won't do to you what you did to me. He left without looking back, and Maya felt for the first time that that chapter had closed. But another chapter was just beginning. Maya used part of her inheritance to renovate the old apartment where she lived. Not for herself. She now lived in the penthouse, but to transform it into something bigger. She knocked down old walls, expanded the space, painted it bright colors, put in toys, little tables, books, and created a free daycare for the children of the community. On opening day, dozens of families showed up, mothers who needed to work and had nowhere to leave their kids, children who had never had access to decent education. And in the middle of them all, sitting in a rocking chair, was Grandpa Anthony. He had volunteered to be the daycare's official storyteller. Every afternoon, he sat with the children around him and told stories of adventure, courage, and hope. The same stories he could never tell the daughter he lost. Now he told them to dozens of children. And for the first time in 30 years, he didn't cry anymore. Maya stood at the door, watching, and wondered how life could change so fast. How in a matter of months she had gone from rock bottom to the top of the world. But she never forgot where she came from. Now I ask you, in Maya's place, would you have forgiven the manager? Or would you have taken justice into your own hands? Write your opinion in the comments. I want to know what you would do. Months passed. The daycare prospered. The building was now managed with respect and dignity. And on a sunny afternoon, Maya and Grandpa Anthony returned to that park. They sat on the same bench where it all began. He bought 2 ice creams from a street vendor, chocolate for her, strawberry for him. They ate in silence, watching the city move. The building was still there, in the background. But it didn't seem so imposing anymore. It wasn't a symbol of power anymore. It was just a building, a home, and nothing more. Anthony looked at Maya. You know what I think? What, Grandpa? That God has a strange sense of humor. He could have brought us together any way he wanted, but he chose pain, loneliness, tears, so that when we finally found each other, we would know the value of what we had. Maya rested her head on his shoulder. Sometimes God disguises a miracle in the form of a little old man crying in the park. He smiled. She smiled. And for the first time in their lives, they both understood the meaning of the word family. This story teaches us that kindness is never wasted, that a simple gesture can change lives, and that justice, when it comes in ways we never expect. If you like stories that touch the heart, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be part of our family.